The first sound Kale heard was his own heartbeat. Too slow to be human. Too deep to belong to anything mortal. Thudded like distant drums inside an endless cavern. Cold breath brushed his. Shadows swayed above him like living things. Moonlight spilled across the stone ceiling and shimmered as if it were breathing. Then he heard her. Kale. Seraphine's whisper trembled, not in fear of him, but in fear of what he might have become. He opened his eyes. The world sharpened instantly. Every torch crackle, every drip of water in the far hall, every footstep several rooms away echoed inside his skull like he could hear the blood in them. His vision pulled everything into impossible focus. The smooth lines of her pale throat, the shaking of her fingers, the faint glow pulsing beneath her skin from the freshly formed bond. He sat up too fast. The room tilted, yet he felt everything around him as if the air itself had a pulse. What's happening to me? He breathed. Serapine stood close, but not touching him, as if afraid it would overwhelm them both. Your senses, they're changing. Our bond is still settling. Her voice softened. I feel you waking. Feel me? He repeated, pulse stumbling. Her breath caught as though his heartbeat shook her own chest. Everything inside you echoes inside me. Kale stared at her. For the first time. She looked vulnerable, open in a way she had never allowed. The connection between them thrummed like a second heartbeat. He raised a hand without thinking and she flinched as if the movement brushed her skin though he hadn't touched her. He froze. Did you feel that? Her eyes flickered. Yes. He pulled back sharply, breath trembling. Serapine, I don't want to hurt you. You can't hurt me, she whispered. But you can overwhelm me. Her honesty rippled through the bond. Soft, unguarded, painfully sincere. He felt her nervousness like a faint cold wind across his ribs. He felt the way she wanted to sit beside him but held herself still, afraid he'd sensed too much. He already sensed everything. He swung his legs off the bed. Shadows curled around his feet like they recognized him. Torches flickered, bowing inward. A faint ribbon of violet light pulsed beneath the veins of his arms. Serapine, he said slowly. Something's wrong. Before she could answer, the entire room hummed. Not sound, energy. A low vibration rolled across the floor, up the stone walls and into Kale's spine. The air shimmered. Moonlight sharpened to a blade's edge. His breath hitched as a vision flashed behind his eyes. A silver moon cracking into pieces. A ring of shadowed figures kneeling, a crown of violet fire rising. It staggered, gripping the bedpost. I saw something like a memory that isn't mine. Seraphine rushed forward, forgetting her restraint. Her hands grabbed his shoulders. The bond flared, pulling both their breaths at once. Fear shuddered through her and into him. Kale, look at me. What did you see? It swallowed hard. A moon breaking and shadows bowing. Her grip tightened. Oh, visions. What? Moonbreakers saw cracks in the future. She whispered. Your bloodline is remembering itself. He shook his head. I don't want this. I know. Her voice broke. But it's happening. He blinked and accidentally heard a soldier 6 hallways away muttering under his breath. Moonbreaker monster. Danger. Kale's jaw clenched. They're afraid of me. They should be afraid, she murmured, sorrow threatening her words. Not of you, but of what might awaken inside you. Another pulse of energy surged through him. His fingers sparked. Violet. Seraphine flinched as the bond yanked her breath from her lungs. Kale, don't move. I'm not doing anything. The energy burst outward. A violent wave of violet and silver light exploded from his chest like a shock wave. The torches blew out. The walls groaned. Shadows twisted upward in a spiraling column. Before shattering like fragile glass. Seraphine cried out, quiet but sharp, as the blast knocked her backward. Kale dropped to his knees, hands burning with power he couldn't control. Serapine. He gasped. She pushed herself up, pale hair falling over her face. Her eyes glowed brighter. Then torches as she looked at him. That wasn't you alone, she whispered. That was your blood answering something. The door burst open. 3 vampire guards rushed in but stopped cold at the sight of Kale kneeling on the cracked stone. Violet fire licking his hands, air bending around him. One guard took a step back. What is he? What have you done, princess? Seraphine stepped between Kale and the guards. No one touches him. But I said no one touches him. Her voice cracked like thunder. Shadows around her writhed with her rage. The guards backed out quickly, but not before whispering something Kale couldn't ignore. The bound star has awakened, and the returning god will follow. Kale's chest tightened. What does that mean? Seraphine turned toward him slowly, as if choosing her words with painful care. It's a prophecy. One whispered by the oldest vampires. The bound star is a soul tied to destiny. A mortal who binds themselves to royal blood. She swallowed. That's you. And the returning god, he whispered. Fear flickered in her eyes. Kind he hadn't seen before. The Forsaken didn't just want you. They wanted what? Sleeps beneath your bloodline. Something ancient. Something even we fear. His breath trembled. So this god wants me? No, she whispered, stepping closer, her cold hand hovering near his cheek. It wants to rise through. You. Kale's heart stuttered. Hers did too. The torches suddenly lit on. Their own, one by one, flooding the room with trembling light. And from somewhere, deep in the castle stone, a whisper crawled through the halls, brushing the back of his neck. Bound star, your god is waking. Seraphine seized his arm, eyes wide with terror. She could no longer hide. Kale, she whispered. This is only the beginning. Shadows moved. Before Kale even opened his eyes, they slithered across the walls like smoke, trying to whisper warnings he couldn't understand. The air felt heavier than the night before, thick, cold, humming, with a presence he couldn't name. When he finally pushed himself up in the bed, he felt it instantly. Something was watching him. Not with eyes, with hunger. Seraphine, he whispered. She was already awake, standing near the far wall, spine straight, eyes glowing with the pale fire of a predator ready to kill. But her face wasn't fierce. Was terrified. I felt it. She breathed. They're here. Kale shivered. The Forsaken. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Low growl rolled from somewhere beyond the chamber door so deep it rattled the floorboards. Kale's breath fogged in the freezing air as the torches flickered violently, bending toward the sound as, though being pulled by something ancient. Seraphine stepped in front of him. Stay behind me. I can fight. No, she snapped. Not this. Not them. The door creaked. Open on its own. Not wide, just enough for darkness to slip in like ink, spilling across the floor. 2 yellow-white eyes appeared in the crack, unblinking. Then 2 more above them. Then 6. A shadow beast slithered inside. Its body, made of smoke and bone. Its limbs long and needle-thin. But it didn't attack. It simply watched Kale. Another slid in behind it and another. Soon the room was filled with their forms, silent, breathless, crawling across the ceiling and walls, but never lunging, never striking. Seraphine raised her hand, crimson magic gathering in her palm. Come any closer, and I will rip you apart. But the beasts ignored her completely. All their attention stayed on Kale. He felt their gaze like cold fingers pressing against his ribs, against his spine, against the center of his chest. He tried to stand, but his knees buckled. Something inside him responded. A warmth, a pull, a voice. Not a voice. He heard with ears, but with blood. What? Kale's breath choked. Seraphine, I feel something. One of the beasts crawled closer, face inches from Kale's chest. Its hollow eyes widened and then it bowed. Seraphine froze. They're not here to kill you, she whispered. They're here to mark you. What does that mean? Before she could answer, the beast lunged, not to strike, but to press its clawed hand flat against Kale's bare chest. Kale screamed. A burning rush tore through him like molten metal. A symbol seared into his skin. A sigil of spiraling lines and dripping fangs, glowing blood red. Smoke rose from his body as if he were being branded by fire. Made from nightmares. Seraphine launched forward, slicing the beast in half with a burst of red energy. It dissolved into smoke, but the damage was already done. Kale collapsed onto his knees, gripping his chest. It's burning. What did they do to me? Seraphine was at his side in an instant, hands moving frantically, hair trembling. No, she whispered. Not this. Anything but this. Kale looked up, eyes wild. Tell me what it is. It swallowed hard, voice cracking. It's a claiming mark. He stared. What? Her hands trembled as she pulled them back from his chest. Kale, the Forsaken leader, just claimed you as a vessel. The room spun. A vessel? Kale whispered. For what? For something older than the vampire race, she said, eyes wide with horror. Something that sleeps beneath the mountains. Something we fought centuries to seal away. The symbol throbbed beneath his skin, burning hotter. Each time his heart beat, he felt something tug at him. From far away, like a chain wrapped around his soul. Seraphine cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Listen to me, Kale. Look at me. He did. Barely, she whispered, trembling. If the Forsaken mark you, it means they believe you're strong enough to hold the returning god. Kale's blood turned to ice. The god? She nodded slowly, pain twisting her features. The first shadow. The one who birthed the Forsaken. The one Moonbreakers fought in the ancient wars. The burning on Cale's chest pulsed. Again. Harder, deeper, almost alive. He gasped and grabbed her. Seraphine. Make it stop, please. She pressed her forehead to his. Can't. Not alone. I'm sorry, Cale. I'm so sorry. Her fear shook through the bond, slamming into him like a physical blow. He felt her panic, her desperation, her fury. It mixed with his own until he couldn't tell where his heartbeat ended and hers began. The doors burst open again. This time it was the Crimson King. Valor the Red stormed into the room, shadows bending beneath his steps. His eyes scanned Cale's chest and widened, not with anger, but with ancient recognition. No, he growled. Not the mark. Not after all these centuries. Seraphine stood, putting herself between Cale and her father. We can help him. We can hide him. Valor said coldly, before the Forsaken take him. Seraphine shook her head violently. You will not take him away from me. This is not about you. Valor thundered. If the Forsaken marked him, they will rip apart the world to reach him. He must be sealed away before the god awakens. Cale staggered to his feet, chest burning. I'm not going anywhere with you. Valor's jaw tightened. You don't understand what you are. Cale stepped closer, voice sharp. Then make me understand. Before the king could answer, the sigil on Cale's chest pulsed again. So bright it lit the entire chamber in red. Seraphine grabbed Cale's hand instinctively, pulling him behind her. Valor stared at their joined hands. So, the bond grows stronger, he murmured. That thing marked my daughter's bonded. This is worse than I thought. I'm not letting him out of my sight, Seraphine said. You don't have a choice. It bared her fangs. Watch me. The walls trembled as if responding to her fury. Cale felt the mark pulse again, and a whisper slithered through his blood. Vessel destiny mine. He stiffened. Seraphine caught the reaction instantly. What did it say? Cale swallowed. Calling for me. The king stepped back, eyes dark. It has begun. Cale's vision blurred, the mark burning like a living fire. Seraphine pulled him close, voice breaking. Cale, whatever happens next, I'm not letting them take you. The mark pulsed again, and the torches blew out, as if something ancient had just opened its eyes beneath the mountain. The deeper they traveled underground, the colder the air became, until each breath left a thin frost on Cale's lips. Shadows clung to the stairway like old memories, whispering as he and Seraphine descended. Torches flickered at their approach, bending toward him as if recognizing something ancient inside his blood. Cale tried not to look down at the mark burned into his chest, still glowing faintly beneath his shirt. Every step sent a dull ache through it, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. Where are we going? He asked quietly. Seraphine didn't turn. Her silver hair flowed behind her like moonlight dragged through darkness, someplace no mortal has seen for thousands of years. She paused, and something I hoped you would never have to see. The stairway ended before a massive stone door carved with spiraling sigils, shapes Cale didn't recognize but felt in his bones. The door groaned as it opened, exhaling air colder than grave soil. Seraphine stepped inside. Cale followed. The forbidden library stretched endlessly, lit by floating orbs of pale flame. Towers of scrolls, stone tablets, and bone-bound books reached the ceiling like monuments to forgotten sins. Cale swallowed. This place is alive. It remembers, Seraphine whispered. Every secret, every curse, every prophecy. She led him to a secluded alcove where a pedestal waited, covered in dust. Here is where we begin. She brushed her fingertips across the surface. The dust burned away in a circle of crimson light. A scroll materialized, old as the first moonrise, its edges cracked, its ink shimmering like liquid silver. Cale felt his throat tighten. What is that? Seraphine hesitated before answering. The truth. She unrolled it slowly. The first symbol on the parchment was the same shape as the mark on Cale's chest. Moonbreaker. Cale's pulse quickened. The sigils on the wall trembled. His vision sharpened until he could see every stroke of ancient writing. Seraphine began reading aloud, voice soft as a funeral hymn. Before the rise of vampires, before the first shadows took form, the Moonbreakers ruled the night. Cale blinked. Ruled the night as in kings. No, she said quietly, as gods. Chill ran down his spine. She continued, they were born from moonfire, wielders of fate, shaping destinies with breath alone. Shadows bent to their will. Light obeyed their command. The very night sky answered when they called. Kale backed away from the pedestal. That's impossible, Kale. Seraphine's voice trembled. Your blood says otherwise. He pressed a hand to his chest, gripping the mark. But I am human. I've always been human. She rolled the scroll farther. When the Moonrakers rose to full power, the world trembled. Even the creatures of darkness bowed to them. Creatures? Kale whispered. Seraphine hesitated. Then, vampires. Kale froze. Vampires served my kind. Not your kind as you know them now, she said quickly. Not the human part of you, but the ancient part, the bloodline you inherited. Her fingers lightly touched the parchment. Our ancestors feared the Moonbreakers, for they alone could bend shadow and moonlight together. Kale felt sick. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. I know. Her voice softened, aching with guilt. But the Forsaken are stirring because your blood woke up. The claiming mark proves they want you alive, Kale. Alive for a reason. Stepped back again, palms shaking. So what am I supposed to be? A living weapon? A vessel? A person? Seraphine interrupted sharply, stepping closer. You're still a person. You're still Kale. He shook his head, voice breaking. No, I'm something dangerous. And so, am I, she whispered. But you never looked at me with fear. Kale met her, eyes swallowing hard. Her gaze held more truth than the scroll. He felt her. Fear through the bond. Fear not of him but for him. And beneath that fear was something warm, fragile, forbidden. She unrolled more of the scroll. Famoon. Breaker forms a soul bond with another being, their powers awaken at tenfold strength. Kale felt the bond from between them. A low pulse under his ribs. Seraphine flinched at the same moment. He whispered. So what happened? Between us made this worse. No, she said. It made it survivable. He frowned. Oh. She looked at him with eyes glowing faintly. Because without the bond, the awakening would have killed you. The truth hit him like a falling stone. She had saved him. Again. He inhaled shakily. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want this destiny for you, she whispered. And because you matter more to me than prophecy. The last words slipped out before she could stop them. It stiffened, eyes widening slightly as if she realized she'd said too much. Kale stared at her, heart pounding, hers answered in his chest through the bond. Seraphine quickly looked down, trying to shield emotion from her face. But the bond betrayed her. He felt the longing, the fear, the warmth. He stepped closer. Seraphine. Don't, she whispered. I can't lose control of this. He reached out, not touching her, just letting his hand hover near her cheek. She sucked in a breath as if the gesture lit fire under her skin. I need to know what I am, he said quietly. But I need you more. Her eyes lifted slowly. Vulnerable, beautiful, terrified. Kale, he didn't touch her. Didn't kiss her. Didn't cross the line she feared. But the air between them thickened until it felt like gravity was pulling them closer. She looked down at the scroll again, voice barely steady. There's one more passage. She read it with a trembling voice. When the bound star rises and the Moonbreaker awakens, the returning god shall seek its vessel. The bond must be strong enough to resist him, or the world shall fall into endless night. Kale's breath hitched. So, the god wants me. And the bond is the only thing keeping it from taking you, she whispered. He exhaled shakily. Then we stay together. Her fingers curled as if resisting the urge to reach for him. Together, she echoed softly. A low rumble shook the stones beneath them. The floating flames flickered. Shadows recoiled. Something stirred far below the library floor. Kale's chest burned. The claiming mark pulsed once hard, and a whisper rose from the ancient shelves, rattling the scrolls. Vessel, I am coming. Seraphine grabbed Kale's hand, fear slicing through the bond like lightning. Kale, she breathed. We have to move now. The god had just awakened. The night split open before Kale even reached the surface halls. A cold wind roared through the crimson court, snuffing out torches and dragging the shadows across the stone like living claws. Kale staggered as the floors trembled, each pulse of darkness thudding through his chest like an echo of the mark. Seraphine's hand was tight around his wrist. They're here. Kale's breath fogged. The Forsaken? No. Her voice trembled. Something worse. Before he could ask, a whisper curled through the hall, thin and dry like a knife scraping against bone. Princess, give me the vessel. Seraphine whipped around, eyes glowing white-red. Show yourself. The shadows obeyed. They peeled off the walls and gathered into shapes, long stretched, twisted like broken reflections. Forsaken wraiths. Their bodies moved, like smoke caught in a storm, but their faces were carved with deep hollow grins. Every step made the temperature drop. Cale felt the mark pulse. Serapine stepped protectively in front of him. Stay behind me. Cale clenched his jaw. They're not here for me. You felt it? Too. Her breath shuddered. Yes, they want me. One of the wraiths tilted its head sharply as if listening to her fear. Princess, you carry the bond too deep. Your blood must be unmade. Cale moved to stand beside her, but the moment he stepped forward, his vision blurred. Light and shadow twisted around him, flickering like flames in a dying lantern. Serapine gasped. Cale, your form. He looked down. His hands were dissolving into silver mist. His outline flickered between solid and translucent, like he existed in two worlds at once. Panic shot through his chest. What's happening to me? It's your awakening, she whispered. Your blood is responding to the shadows. The Forsaken hissed. Moonbreaker unstable. Take him. Break him. They lunged. Seraphine reacted instantly. She flung out her hand, a wave of blood-red energy slamming into the nearest wraith. Screamed, its body tearing apart like a shadow caught in wind. But others slipped around her attack, gliding like smoke toward her throat. Cale reached for her, but his hand passed through the air like fog. No, 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 he whispered, panic rising. His form flickered again. Solid. Not solid. Solid. Not. A wraith struck Seraphine across the ribs. She flew backward, crashing into a pillar so hard it cracked. Cale felt the impact in his own ribs. The breath punched out of him. He grabbed his chest. Seraphine. Her body slid down the stone, blood trailing from her lips. The wraith swarmed her, not Cale. Cale forced his flickering body forward, fighting against the strange shifting gravity of his half-formed power. Stay back. Serapine gasped, trying to lift an arm. Cale, don't let them. A wraith pinned her by the throat. Another drove a claw into her abdomen. Cale's vision went red. He felt her pain like a blade inside his own flesh, the bond ripping, the sensation through both their bodies. Her heartbeat stuttered in his chest. Her breath caught in his lungs. He doubled over with her agony. Seraphine, stop. Don't fight alone. She choked out. Cale, your body, it's unstable if you move too fast. She didn't finish. A wraith raised its hand, claws poised to carve through her heart. Cale's heart stopped. Literally stopped. Then the bond snapped open wide. He felt everything. Her fear. Stubborn anger, her desperate wish that he'd run, her love buried and silent, but burning beneath everything else. And something inside him broke or awoke. Sound tore from his throat. Half human, half something older. The air around him vibrated. The shadows quivered. Then he moved. Not like a man, like moonlight pulled into a blade. One moment he stood 10 steps away. The next he stood between Serapine and the killing blow. He didn't remember moving. He didn't remember breathing. He only remembered the feeling of her heartbeat slamming back into rhythm inside his chest. The wraith's claw met Cale's flickering form and passed straight through his body. But the moment it touched the mark on his chest, something else happened. Light erupted. Silver white, burning like the surface of a newborn star. The wraith shrieked. Its entire arm dissolved into ash. Cale lifted his hand and silver flames rippled along his arm, shifting with each pulse of the mark. He grabbed the wraith by the throat. This time he was solid. Very solid. You don't touch her. His voice wasn't entirely his. It crushed the wraith in one movement. It burst apart like smoke torn by wind. The others recoiled instantly, hissing, melting back into the cracks of the walls, their voices whispering like dying embers. The vessel defends. The bond deepens. The god awakens. Then they vanished entirely. The hall fell silent. Cale dropped to his knees beside Seraphine. Hey, look at me. Stay awake. It coughed blood but managed to smile. Your form stabilized because of the bond. It touched her cheek, trembling. I felt your heart stop. And I felt yours. Trying to beat for both of us, she whispered. He pulled her closer, supporting her head. She winced but leaned into him anyway. Cale, she murmured, eyes fluttering. Your heartbeat. I feel it as if it's inside my chest. He swallowed, voice tight. That's because it is. Her hands slowly rose and rested against his heart, fingers trembling, stronger than before. Because I thought I lost you, he whispered. For a moment, neither moved. The cold hall felt warmer with her pressed against him, her breath soft on his neck, their heartbeats stumbling into the same rhythm. Then a new sound echoed down the corridor. Heavy footsteps. Dozens of them. Seraphine stiffened. That's not Forsaken. No, he whispered. It was worse. Vampire guards. Dozens of them. Claws out. Fangs bared. Eyes wide with fear and suspicion. They'd sensed the Moonraker awakening. Kale tightened his hold on Seraphine as the soldiers surrounded them, weapons drawn. One guard whispered, "That thing. Just killed the Forsaken with light." Another, "He's changing. Becoming. Something else." A third, "Is the princess safe or is she next?" Seraphine tried to rise, but Kale held her steady. Their hearts still beat as one. The guards closed in, and Kale felt the mark pulse again, sharper this time, like a warning, like a countdown. Something ancient had noticed him, and was coming. The throne hall felt colder than the mountain air outside. Columns of ancient stone rose into darkness, carved with scenes of old wars. Kale could almost hear. The torches around the chamber dimmed whenever he passed. Like even the flames were afraid of what he was becoming. Kale stood just behind the doorway, hidden by shadow. He hadn't meant to listen. He only followed the echo in his chest, the bond tugging him toward Seraphine's fear. And now he heard the king. Valar's voice thundered through the hall, deep and stained with centuries of power. His awakening is accelerating. The Forsaken are not the only threat. If the returning god reaches him first, he will become its vessel. If that happens, even I cannot save this court. Seraphine's voice cracked through the tension, sharp as a blade. You're talking about Kale like he's a weapon. He is not. He is exactly that. Valar snarled. A weapon forged long before our kind existed. He is a person. Seraphine hissed. He saved my life twice. And now, Valar said softly, dangerously, he may end it. Kale's breath caught. Seraphine's heartbeat stuttered in his chest through the bond. Fear, fury, desperation. Valar continued. There is one way to protect the court. To protect you. Silence thickened around them until Kale could barely breathe. Then the king said it. We must sever the bond. Seraphine inhaled sharply. You will not touch it. It is corrupting him. Valar snapped. Your blood is amplifying what he cannot control. Your heartbeat is forcing his to shift between worlds. You are binding yourselves into something unpredictable. Kale's hands trembled. He pressed himself against the pillar, hiding in the shadows. He didn't want to hear more, but he couldn't stop. Seraphine's voice broke again, but this time with raw emotion. If you sever the bond, he will die. Valar paused. Yes. The world tilted. Kale squeezed his eyes shut, breath shaking. He knew the bond was dangerous. He knew his blood was calling something dark. But hearing it spoken aloud made it unbearable. Seraphine whispered, I will never allow it. You cannot stop it. Valar replied. The ritual predates even our bloodline. You would sacrifice him. After he saved me, after he bled for this court, I would sacrifice anyone. Valar growled to keep the returning god from rising. Kale felt something hollow open inside him. He pressed a hand to the mark, burning softly against his chest. I never wanted any of this. He whispered to himself. I never wanted to ruin her life. But the bond trembled, tightening, not with pain, but with Seraphine's emotion crashing against his own fury and something warmer. Something he wasn't ready to name. Seraphine stepped closer to her father. If you come for Kale, you come through me. Seraphine, Valar warned. Do not test me. I will, she whispered fiercely, because he is mine to protect. Kale's heart stopped. That single word, mine, carved itself into his ribs. Valar exhaled, ancient disappointment heavy in his voice. Your attachment blinds you. My attachment, she said, trembling, is the reason he's alive, and the reason he may doom us all. Seraphine's voice cracked. He is not a doom. He is a man. Kale stepped back, pulse pounding. He didn't want her risking everything for him. He didn't want her torn apart between duty and whatever this was between them. The bond pulsed, catching her breath and sending it into him. He couldn't bear it. He turned, preparing to slip away before she sensed him. Kale. Her voice cut through the hall. Like a blade of moonlight. He froze. She stepped from the shadows, eyes glowing with anger, fear, and something much deeper. Valar glared but did not move. As she crossed the hall toward Kale. Her steps were too fast, too desperate. You heard. He nodded silently. She reached him, hands shaking as she grabbed his wrist. You shouldn't have. I had to, Kale whispered. I felt your fear. Through the bond. Her breath trembled. Kale, listen to me. No, he said quietly. You listen. I heard everything. I heard him say that you'd die or betray your court for me. I can't let you do that. I don't want to be the reason your world falls apart. Her fingers tightened on him. You are not ruining my life. Kale's voice cracked. But I'm changing it. And not for the better. It stepped closer until he could feel her breath against his throat. Do you think I care about politics when your life is at stake? Sarah, fine. I would burn the entire court to keep you alive. Kale's chest tightened painfully. You don't mean that. Her eyes shone with a fierce, trembling light. You have no idea what you mean to me. His breath caught. Her heartbeat echoed through him. Fast, unsteady, real, she whispered. I feel everything you feel. Every fear, every ache, every moment you think you're not worthy of being alive. Her voice softened and it breaks me. It swallowed hard. I don't want you to die for me. She leaned her forehead against his breath, trembling. Then don't leave me. His pulse slammed against hers, the bond twisting tighter. He gripped her waist without realizing, steadying them. Both. Seraphine, he breathed. Why does it feel like this? Why does it hurt when I think about you being hurt? Why does your breath feel like mine? Her voice was barely audible. Because the bond isn't just blood anymore. Kale's heart thundered. Then what is it? Her eyes closed, fear and longing trembling through the bond. It's love, she whispered. The hall went silent. Not a guard moved. Not a torch dared flicker. Even the shadows froze. Kale felt her. Confession hit his chest like a blade made of moonlight. Sharp and soft at the same time. Her love burned through the bond, warm and overwhelming. He cupped her cheek, voice breaking. Seraphine. But she shook her head, breath shaking. I would rather die with you, she said. Softly, fiercely, than live 1,000 years without you. Kale's throat tightened. He opened his mouth to speak, but the mark on his chest pulsed violently, flooding the chamber with silver light. Valor's eyes widened. Beginning. The torches blew out. The shadows twisted and a whisper rose from the stone floor. Vessel, I have found you. The first tremor hit so softly that Kale thought it was just his pulse, another violent throb of the claiming mark. But the second tremor shook dust from the ceiling. The third bent the torches sideways and made the very air hum like a living drum. Seraphine grabbed Kale's arm, her nails digging into his skin. No, not now. Before. Lurched. Statues cracked. A deep rumble rolled beneath the mountain as if something massive and ancient was turning in its sleep. Kale staggered. Seraphine. What is that? She didn't answer because she knew. And the fear in her eyes was not fear for herself. It was fear for him. The wall shook again. Louder this time. A low roar echoed from somewhere miles below the fortress, so deep and old that it felt like a memory rising through stone. Kale's chest ignited in pain. The mark blazed red and silver, burning like a star pressed into his skin. He fell to his knees, gasping, as light pulsed beneath his ribs. Seraphine dropped with him, arms wrapping around his shoulders. Kale breathed. Listen to me. Stay with me. He tried. He really tried, but every heartbeat came with a voice that was not. Awake at last, Kale cried out, grabbing the stone floor. It felt like someone was pulling him down to the depths of the mountain, dragging his soul by invisible chains. Seraphine, his vision blurred. It's inside my head. No. She cooped his face, forcing his eyes to hers. Kale, listen to me. Fight it. Not, he choked. It's not something you can fight. Another tremor rattled the world. A horrifying crack echoed up the mountain. The torches all died at once. For a moment, the hall was swallowed in pure blackness. Then the shadows lit with blue-white lightning. Not from the sky but from the ground. Seraphine inhaled sharply. He's waking the king. Kale's blood ran cold. The forsaken king. No. Her whisper trembled. The first king. The earth roared like a dying god. A shock wave blasted through the mountain, knocking Kale backward into Seraphine's arms. He felt her heartbeat slam through his chest, the bond tightening until their breaths moved as one. Through the stone floor he heard something. Pounding. Slow and massive. A heartbeat. Not human. Not vampire. Something older than both. Kale shook violently. What is happening to me? Seraphine's hands cooped his face, forcing him to look at her, even as tears stung his eyes. They're resurrecting him, she whispered. The forsaken leader. Waking their king from the tomb beneath the mountain. What? Kale gasped. Her voice broke. Because your blood can free him. The mark pulsed again, a violent surge that made Kale scream. Silver light burst from his chest, illuminating the entire hall in a blinding flash. Prophecy whispered inside her head. Words she had heard once as a child, spoken by a dying seer. When the Moonbreaker's blood flows again, the gate of endless night shall open. She clutched Kale tighter. Kale, your blood is the key. That's why they marked you. The Moonbreakers sealed the gate ages ago. Only their blood can break it. Kale's eyes widened in horror. So I could release him. You could unleash him, she whispered, voice shaking. And you will destroy everything. Kale's breathing faltered. I don't want this, Seraphine. I don't want any of this. I know. She pulled him against her chest. I know, Kale. I know. His body trembled violently. Light flickered beneath his skin, dancing like a trapped storm. I can't control it. He's trying to pull me under. Stay with me. Her hand slid to the back of his head, cradling him as if holding him together. Kale, please look at me. He lifted his gaze. What he saw in her eyes wasn't fear. It wasn't pity. It was heartbreak, and it shattered him. I'm going to hurt you, he whispered. I'm going to hurt everyone. No, she breathed. You won't. You don't know that. I do. Her voice was soft, fierce, breaking because I'm not leaving you. Another tremor ripped up the stone, knocking them sideways. A fissure split the floor. Cold wind howled from the crack, carrying the stench of old death. Kale flinched, covering his ears. I hear him, Seraphine. I hear him calling my name. Then listen to me instead, she begged. Listen to my voice. His vision flickered. Her face blurred between shadow and light. Something colossal shifted deep below the mountain. A limb, or a wing, or 1,000 claws dragging against the walls of its tomb. Kale curled forward, shaking uncontrollably. I can't stop it. I can't. Seraphine wrapped both arms around him, pulling him into her lap, holding his body tight against hers. Kale, she whispered into his hair. I'm here. I'm here. Just breathe. Her heartbeat thudded it against his cheek, warm, real, alive. His own heartbeat crashed into hers through the bond. For a moment the pain faltered, but only for a moment. A voice boomed through the stone. Vessel, open the gate. Kale screamed, hands clawing at the floor. No, no, please don't. Seraphine held him tighter, her voice cracking. Kale, look at me. He lifted his head. Her hands framed his face, her forehead pressed to his. Her breaths came fast, uneven. Listen, she whispered fiercely. I will not let this thing take you. Will not let you fall. You hear me? I will hold you together myself if I have. Tears slipped from Kale's eyes. Tears he didn't realize he still had. It whispered, voice shattered. Seraphine, I'm scared. She pulled him closer, arms wrapping around him completely, protecting him like he was something precious. I know, she whispered. So am I. The mountain shook again. And then silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against their bones. Seraphine's breath stilled. Kale's heart stumbled. Far below the fortress, a new heartbeat began. Slow, massive awakening. The heartbeat of a god. Kale trembled violently in her arms. Seraphine, he whispered. He's awake. It held him tighter, voice breaking, eyes burning with fear and fury. Then we fight fate, she whispered into his ear. Together, but deep in the mountains. The Forsaken King opened his eyes. The first sign that the Forsaken Hunters had been unleashed was the moon. It dimmed, not behind clouds, behind shadows drifting across it, like wings too large to belong to anything that should exist. Kale felt the shift before he saw it. A sudden ache in his chest, a cold pressure in his throat, a whisper crawling beneath his skin. Run, Vessel, run. Sarah's grip on his hand tightened. Instantly. They've released the elite hunters, she breathed. We have to move now. He didn't argue. The mark was burning again, sharp as frostbite, tugging him towards something far beneath the mountain. Every instinct screamed at him to run. So they did. Seraphine dragged him through the ruined halls of the Crimson Court. Shattered stones glowing faintly under the silver-blue moon that bled through collapsing ceilings. The night air was sharp with the scent of ash and frost. Somewhere behind them, the Forsaken whispered through the darkness like hungry children waking from a long sleep. Kale stumbled, clutching his chest. Seraphine, why do they want me alive? Because dead vessels are useless, she said darkly. That didn't help his pulse. They burst out onto a high cliff overlooking the Bloodroot Mountains. Vast, jagged peaks stretching endlessly into the night. A cold wind slammed into them, carrying flakes of silver frost that clung to Kale's hair. Seraphine pulled him close, voice low. Urgent, stay right beside me. The hunters tracked the mark through your breath. My breath. Yes. Her gaze flicked toward the horizon where 3 long, thin shadows glided through the night sky. Forsaken hunters don't follow footprints. They follow destiny. Before he could respond, she grabbed his waist and leaped off the cliff. Kale shouted, the ground rushing up at them, but Seraphine twisted midair, her cloak flaring behind her like dark wings. They landed on a narrow ledge halfway down the cliff face. She didn't slow. She ran along the edge, pulling Kale behind her as the wind howled around them. The world blurred into moonlit stone and crimson. Miss Kale's breath came fast. They're getting closer. I know. Her voice was calm, almost too calm, but he felt her fear echo through the bond, vibrating inside his chest. When they reached a slope, they slid down together, snow spraying around them. Kale almost lost his balance several times, but Seraphine's hand stayed locked around his like a lifeline. By the time they reached the valley floor, Kale's legs shook. Seraphine glanced at him, eyes softening. We rest for a moment. He leaned against a frost-covered pine. The forest around them glowed faintly in the moonlight, white branches trembling like enchanted crystal. Snowflakes drifted down so slowly they seemed suspended in time. It was the most peaceful place Kale had seen since becoming bonded. But peace never lasted. A howl echoed across the mountains. Wrong. Hollow. Kale flinched. That wasn't any animal. Seraphine moved to stand in front of him. Body tense. Elite hunters. They found our trail. Kale took a shaky breath. Seraphine. What if I'm pulling you toward danger? Her jaw tightened. You are not pulling me. Choosing to be here. Even if it kills you. She turned toward him, eyes glowing. Faintly. If I leave you, Kale, you die. And her voice broke. I can't lose. The bond pulsed. Warm, painful, alive. He stepped closer, unable to help himself. Seraphine, you don't have to protect me alone. Yes, I do, she whispered. Because the Forsaken will tear the world apart to get to you. They want your blood. They want your body as a doorway. They want your soul. Her voice shook. And I won't let them have it. Kale touched her arm gently. Then don't carry this alone. Let me stand with you. Her lips parted just slightly and Kale felt her breath mingle with his, cold and warm at once. She stepped closer until their foreheads almost touched. Kale, she whispered. The world felt still. The falling snow hung suspended. The moonlight brightened around them. He leaned in without thinking. Their lips brushed and the mark on his chest flared violently. The moment shattered. Kale staggered backward, clutching his chest. And no, Seraphine, he's in my head. Her eyes widened. The god. Kale fell to his knees. As the vision slammed into him. A black throne rising from a lake of shadows. Crown of bone and starlight. Eyes like voids opening in the dark. Mountain cracking in half as something climbed out. Claws dripping with moonlight, a voice echoing through the ruins of the world. Vessel opened the gate. Kale choked on a scream. Seraphine threw herself beside him, cupping his face with both hands. Kale, look at me. Look at me. He tried, but the visions kept ripping him apart from the inside. Her voice broke. Please listen to my heartbeat. Match it. Hear me. Stay with me. He forced himself to look at her. Her eyes. Her breath. Her trembling lips. He felt her heartbeat through the bond. Fast, terrified, but strong. Whispered Seraphine. Don't let go. I won't, she breathed, pulling him against her. I'll never let go. The visions finally loosened their hold. The bond tightened around him like a protective shield, sealing the cracks in his mind. When he could breathe again, he realized. They were both sitting in the snow, arms wrapped around each other, foreheads touching, breaths mingled in a trembling cloud. Seraphine whispered, voice trembling. Kale, every time he pushes into your mind, the bond fights him. But it hurts you. I feel it. I'm sorry, Kale. Whispered. Don't be. I'd rather feel your pain than your absence. It swallowed hard. Seraphine. She held him tighter. But then branches cracked deep. In the forest. A low snarl rolled through the valley. Another. Then. Another. Forsaken hunters closing in. Seraphine rose, pulling Kale to his feet. We move now. Kale nodded, still shaking. She grabbed his hand, whispering, stay close. He squeezed her fingers. Always. They ran into the moonlit woods, snow swirling behind them as the Forsaken. Shadows leapt from the trees, their whispers echoing through the night. Vessel. Vessel, vessel. The forest thinned as Kale and Seraphine pushed deeper into the bloodroot wilds. Snow fell in slow spirals as if the world itself were holding its breath. The moon hung low and swollen above them, bleeding pale light across the mountain sides. Kale felt every tremor of danger in the air, every whisper of the Forsaken closing in. But he also felt her. Seraphine's heartbeat pulsed through the bond like a second rhythm, guiding him, grounding him, keeping him from slipping into the God's murmurs that clawed at the back of his skull. When they reached the cliff's edge, Seraphine stopped. Suddenly, "We're close." Cale looked around. "What?" She pointed toward a jagged tear in the rock, an opening swallowed in darkness, hidden behind frost-covered vines. The wind changed as soon as he stepped toward it, brushing his skin like a cold hand recognizing him. Seraphine whispered, "This place answers only to your kind." "My kind?" Cale echoed. Bitterly. "You're still you," she said softly. "But this cave, this was carved by the Moonbreakers themselves, before vampires ever walked the world." Cale swallowed hard and stepped through the entrance. Darkness rolled out like a tide, swallowing them whole until Cale's foot touched the inner stone. Light exploded, not fire, not magic. Something older. The walls lit up in spiraling patterns of silver and violet, glowing like constellations carved into stone. Every symbol pulsed like a heartbeat. Seraphine inhaled sharply. The cave of forgotten stars. Cale turned slowly, stunned. "This is alive." "The sanctuary responds to Moonbreaker blood," she said. "It's a memory you were never supposed to find." As he walked deeper, the glowing lines followed his movement, dancing across the walls like starlight flowing through veins. Where his hand brushed the stone, the light surged brighter, hot, powerful, awakening. Seraphine stepped beside him, eyes wide. "Knows you." Cale touched the stone again. "I don't want it to." His voice echoed, breaking slightly. Seraphine watched him for a long moment before she spoke. "Cale, this place is sacred. If the Moonbreakers built anything to shield their own bloodline, it's here. You think it can protect me from the Forsaken King?" he asked. "I think." She stepped close enough that her breath warmed his cheek. "I think it can protect your soul." Cale's chest tightened at the softness in her voice. "Seraphine, you don't understand what it's like," she whispered, gaze dropping. "Every time he pushes into your mind, I feel you slipping. I feel your fear, your pain, your heartbeat stuttering against mine. And her breath caught. I can't lose you." Cale stared at her. The light on the walls reflected in her eyes, white with red pupils glowing faintly, full of fear she never showed to anyone else. "Step closer. Seraphine, I'm not leaving you." "You don't get to promise that," she whispered. "The Forsaken want you as a vessel. The God wants your blood. The mark is pulling you toward him. And if he takes you," her voice cracked, "I will feel it happen." Cale reached out, brushing a trembling strand of hair from her face. "Seraphine, look at me." She didn't at first. Then she finally lifted her gaze. He cupped off her cheek gently. "I will fight this with you." Her breath shuddered. "Don't say that unless you mean it." "I've never meant anything more." The words sank into the bond, warm, solid, anchoring. Sarah's pulse fused with his there. Heartbeats merging into one rhythm so perfect it hurt. She whispered, barely audible. "You don't understand. You mean more to me than anything I've known. More than this court, more than my duty, more than the centuries ahead of me." Cale's heart shook. "Seraphine." Her voice broke. "The God takes you, I don't think I could survive it." He pulled her closer. Slowly, carefully, his forehead pressed to hers, breath mingling in a trembling cloud. The air around them warmed, charged with violet sparks as the bond tightened like a promise sealed in starlight. "I'm here," he whispered. "And I'm not going anywhere." Something responded. The walls burst with brighter light, glowing in spirals that circled them like constellations coming alive. The bond surged violet, light wrapping around them, threads of power linking their hearts, their breath, their souls. Seraphine gasped, gripping his cloak. "Cale, the bond." He felt it too. A pulse of magic so warm, so intense it shook the cave. The light rose around them, like a shield. Then the world outside screamed. Forsaken voices. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They had found the sanctuary. Cale spun toward the entrance, but Seraphine grabbed his arm. "Don't move." Her voice was steady now. Terrifyingly steady. The shadows beyond the cave writhed like a tide of monsters crashing against unseen walls. Dark figures clawed at the entrance, teeth snapping, limbs twisting unnaturally, but they couldn't cross the threshold. Each time a Forsaken hunter tried, the violet light flared and hurled it backward as if the cave itself refused to let them enter. Cale's chest tightened. "They can't get in." Seraphine stood beside him, breath trembling. "The Moonbreakers built this place to protect themselves. The first king cannot breach it. Neither can his hunters." Cale felt the weight of those words. "So we're safe for now," she whispered. The Forsaken screeched, again slamming against the barrier. The sound rattled the stone. "Cale." stepped closer to Seraphine, instinct drawing him toward her warmth, her breath, her heartbeat. Seraphine. What now? She lifted her hands slowly. Her fingers brushed his, and the entire sanctuary glowed brighter as if the cave itself wanted them together. Seraphine whispered. Now we stay close. Closer than ever. Kale's breath caught. Seraphine. She looked up at him, eyes glowing softly. As long as the bond holds, they can't take you. The cave pulsed with their combined heartbeat. The Forsaken wailed. Outside, unable to enter. And inside the cave of forgotten stars, Kale and Seraphine stood wrapped in violet starlight. A promise glowing between them, bright. Enough to defy a god. Kale woke to a silence so heavy it felt alive. The sanctuary was still glowing from the night before, starlit veins humming across the walls. Seraphine slept beside him, half sitting, half leaning against the stone, her head resting on his shoulder, their hands still intertwined. From where they had clung to each other through the night. For a moment, Kale let himself breathe. For a moment he imagined a world where he was just a man and she was just a woman, and destiny wasn't a chain around his throat. But the moment died quickly, the mark on his chest pulsed, not softly, not like a heartbeat, like a fist. Kale stiffened. The violet glow flickered. Shadows trembled on the walls, rippling like disturbed water. A cold breath slid across his spine. Vessel awake. Kale's body convulsed. His vision blurred. Silver, black, violet until the cave twisted in on itself. His knees buckled. Seraphine jolted awake, eyes snapping open. Kale. Her voice cracked. Kale, what's wrong? He tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. He felt something pulling at him, pulling through him like his soul was being dragged out of his body. He gasped. Seraphine, don't let go. Then he collapsed. His body hit the stone floor with a sickening thud. Seraphine was on him instantly, cradling his head, shaking him. Kale, look at me. His eyes snapped open. But they weren't his. The irises burned silver. The pupils stretched into black slits. Dark veins spread across his skin like spider webs. A voice, not his voice, slid from his mouth, deep and wrong, layered with 1,000 echoes. At last, Mare awakens. Seraphine recoiled in horror. No. Get out of him. Kale's body jerked. Upright, unnatural, and stiff. His hands clawed at the air as if sensing something through the stone. Shadows curled around his fingers like living smoke. Seraphine grabbed his shoulders, shaking him violently. Fight it, Kale. Fight it. He turned toward her slowly. His face twisted in a sinister smile that did not belong to him. The vessel resists, adorable, useless. Seraphine's breath broke. Get out of him. I will not. The voice rumbled from Kale's chest. He is Moonbreaker blood. He is mine by destiny. Mine by prophecy, mine by right. Kale's body lurched forward, pinning Seraphine to the stone. His hands slammed beside her head, cracking the wall. His breath was cold as winter as he leaned close. His face hovered inches from hers. A tear slipped down Seraphine's cheek, but it wasn't fear. It was rage. Kale, she whispered, voice trembling. If you can hear me, please come back. Kale's eyes flickered. For a split second, the silver black receded. A flash of brown, his brown, appeared beneath it. Seraph. His own voice tried to push through, then vanished. The Forsaken King snarled. Through his mouth, furious. Do not speak her name. Do not think her name. You belong to me, not to. Seraphine slapped him. The sound cracked. Like thunder in the cave. Her eyes blazed white-red. He belongs to no one. The Forsaken King roared through Kale's body, a sound that shook the cave. Starlight veins dimmed. The sanctuary trembled but held. Seraphine grabbed Kale's face, forcing his forehead against hers. Listen to me, she whispered fiercely. You are stronger than him. You are stronger than this fate. You are Kale Arden. Kale's chest heaved. His breath stuttered. The mark burned violently, glowing through his shirt like molten fire. Seraphine's voice softened. You're the man who saved me. You're the man who threw himself in front of Silver for a creature he should have feared. You're the man who her voice broke. You're the man I love. The cave froze. The air froze. Kale froze. Her confession struck the bond like lightning. Violet light exploding around them, wrapping them in a pulse of raw, overwhelming emotion. Kale's eyes flickered again, silver cracking to reveal brown beneath. His voice weak, broken, pushed through the god's control. Seraphine. She held his face against her palms, tears slipping down. Come back to me, please. Kale reached for her hand, but then the shadow screamed. The cave's entrance split open with a thunderous crack. Darkness poured in like a tidal wave, thick, dense, alive. A rift tore itself open, swirling like a vortex of black fire. Seraphine gasped. "No." And oh, Kale's body jerked. The Forsaken King whispered through him, triumphant. "He is mine." Seraphine lunged forward, arms wrapping around Kale, holding him from behind with every ounce of strength she had. "I won't let you take him." Kale's voice strained through the darkness. "Seraphine, don't." She clung tighter. "You're not going anywhere." The rift expanded, its pull dragging Kale's body across the stone. Seraphine's feet slipped. She dug her claws into the ground, anchoring herself, anchoring him. Kale's fingers reached back, curling around her wrist. "Seraphine, please let go. You'll be pulled in." "I don't care," she screamed. "I'm not losing you." The rift roared. Shadows wrapped around Kale's legs, around his waist, around his throat, dragging him inch by inch toward the void. Seraphine screamed his name. Voice. Rock. Kale. He was slipping. The bond pulsed violently, desperate, frantic, like a heart trying to stop a universe from breaking. Kale's last words tore from his throat, twisted between his voice and the gods. "I'm sorry." Seraphine cried out, clawing at the shadows. "No, don't you dare. Don't you dare." But the Forsaken King laughed through him. "You cannot fight destiny, princess." The rift swallowed Kale's body in a single violent pull and he vanished. The cave fell silent. Seraphine collapsed to her knees, the echo of his heartbeat fading from her chest like a dying star. Her voice cracked into the empty cave. "Kale, please come back." But only the shadows answered. The cave had never felt so silent, so broken, so cruel. Seraphine sat where Kale had vanished. Her fingers clawed into the stone until her nails bled. The violet glow of the sanctuary dimmed around her, flickering like a dying star. His warmth was gone. His heartbeat, once bound to hers, was faint now, distant, barely a whisper. She pressed a trembling hand to her. "Just Kale." But the bond gave her only pain, only emptiness. A sound tore from her throat, half sob, half snarl. She slammed her fist into the stone, cracking it. Shadows rippled around her, responding to her rage. The moonlight trembling on the cave walls looked like shattered glass. The Forsaken King had taken him, and she had failed to hold him. Seraphine rose slowly like a storm, gathering strength. Her hair fell wild around her shoulders, her eyes glowing white with a burning light even she didn't recognize. Going after him," she whispered. Her steps echoed through the cave as she moved toward the entrance. Outside, the moon rested low in the sky, washing the Bloodroot Mountains in a pallid glow. Snow shifted under her feet, whispering like ghosts following her. When she returned to the Crimson Court, the great hall was in chaos. Vampires shouted. Elders argued. The floor trembled with fear, anger, and confusion. "The vessel is lost. The Forsaken King has risen. We must surrender before he destroys us." Valor stood at the throne steps, jaw clenched, power trembling in the air around him. "Silence. There will be no surrender. An elder is." The princess bonded with the vessel. "She endangered us all." Seraphine appeared in the doorway and the hall fell silent. Her cloak was torn, her hair disheveled, her eyes burning with a cold fury no one dared step into. Valor exhaled sharply. "Seraphine, thank the moons. You're alive. Where is the search party?" It demanded. "There will be no search party." Her voice was ice. "What did you say?" Valor descended the stairs, trying to reach for her shoulder. "Seraphine, you do not understand. The Forsaken King is awake. Kale is beyond saving now." The hall murmured. Seraphine's jaw tightened. "Say that again." Valor hesitated. "Daughter, this is not a battle we can win. Even you cannot." She slapped his hand away. The hall gasped. Seraphine's voice cut like a blade. "I am not asking what we can win. I am asking what we are willing to risk." "You would risk our entire court for one mortal." Valor boomed. Seraphine's eyes flared. "For the man I love." "Yes." The whispers burst like wildfire. Valor's face twisted with shock. "Seraphine, you cannot." "I already did," she said coldly. "And I would again." His voice trembled. "If you go after him, the Forsaken King will kill you." "No," she whispered. "You will try." With a sweeping motion, she stepped back and raised her hand toward the hall. "I need 3 people and no more." Silence. Until one figure stepped forward. A tall warrior with black armor cracked down the chest plate. The disgraced knight. Rider, once the strongest of the riders, exiled for breaking formation and protecting a child instead of following orders. I owe him a life, he said. I ride with you. Seraphine nodded. The second figure approached, a hooded blood seer with a blindfold of woven gold. I have seen your path, she murmured, and it is drenched in moonlight and shadow. I will guide you. Then a third figure emerged. From the corner shadows draped in strips of black cloth, her eyes glowing violet. The shadow which banished long ago for forbidden magic. Feared by all. I know. The Forsaken's rituals, she hissed. And I know how to kill a god's servants. Am yours, princess. Valor stepped in front of Seraphine, blocking her path. I forbid this. Forbid all of this. Seraphine took one step forward. Her aura so cold and powerful the torches dimmed. You are not my ruler in this, she whispered. You did not hold him as he was taken. You did not hear him scream. You did not feel his soul being ripped through mine. Valor's eyes softened. Seraphine, daughter. She turned away. If I lose him, she whispered, I lose myself. Her team assembled behind her. Broken warriors, cursed seers, and exiled witches. The strongest misfits the court had ever cast aside. Seraphine looked back at the hall of vampires who trembled in fear. I will not lose him, she declared. Not to destiny, not to gods, not to darkness. She walked toward the gates, cloak billowing in moonlight, and the crimson court watched their princess march into. The ancient temple rose where no temple should exist. A jagged monolith of black moonstone pulled from the depths of the mountain by the Forsaken King's awakening. Its spires curled like claws reaching for the sky, glowing faintly with blue shadow light. A great rift pulsed at its center and open wound in the world. Seraphine and her team crouched behind a ridge. Mist rolled across the ground like a living thing. The blood seer whispered, Kale is inside alive, but not alone. Seraphine's breath caught. Show me. The seer touched her forehead. Suddenly, Seraphine saw through someone else's eyes. Saw chains. Saw moonstone. Saw Kale's hands bound. Saw his chest glowing with the claiming mark. Saw shadows crawling over his skin. Saw his head drooped forward. And heard his voice. Weak, hoarse, broken. Seraphine. Her breath shuddered out of her. He's calling for me. The Night Rider drew his weapon. Then we move now. The shadow which lifted her hands. I will cloak us. Dark tendrils wrapped around them, shrouding them in an aura the Forsaken couldn't sense. They descended the ridge, slipping through shadow and moonlight like ghosts. Inside the temple, the air rire of ancient death. Forsaken warriors chanted in a circle around the moonstone altar. Their leader, wrapped in decaying robes, held a dagger made of crystallized night. Above Kale, the gate of endless night pulsed, ready to be opened with the blood of a Moonraker. Seraphine's heart crashed in her chest. Kale. His head lifted weakly. His eyes flickering between brown and silver. Black locked onto hers. Seraphine. She ran. The room erupted into chaos. Forsaken lunged. The Night Rider cut them down, moving like a shadow. The blood seer hurled bursts of golden light. The shadow which tore the darkness itself into weapons. Seraphine reached the altar just as the Forsaken leader plunged the night dagger toward Kale's chest. She blocked it. With a blast of crimson energy that cracked the stone floor. Get away from him, she screamed. Kale tried to lift his head. Seraphine, run. Never, she whispered, climbing onto the altar and grabbing his face with shaking hands. I'm here. I'm here. Look at me. Strained, fighting the god clawing at his soul. Shadows twisted around him, trying to drag him into the gate. I can't stop him, he gasped. Yes, you can, she whispered fiercely. Fight him. Look at me and fight him. The Forsaken leader shrieked. He is ours. He is the king's vessel. Seraphine bared her fangs. He is mine. She pressed her forehead to Kale's. The bond flared. Kale inhaled sharply. Her heartbeat slammed into his chest. His voice, his real voice, broke through the darkness. Seraphine. Then he whispered it. Her name soft, painful, human. And the Forsaken king screamed inside Kale's mind. No. The entire temple shook. Kale's chains shattered. The gate flickered violently. Moonstone cracked. Seraphine pulled him into her arms as the altar exploded. Behind them. And the Forsaken fled in terror. The temple was crumbling around them. Spirals of moonstone falling like dying stars. Shadows fleeing back into the gate. Seraphine held Kale against her chest. One arm under his shoulders, the other gripping his hand. His breaths came in. Ragged gasps. Stay with me, she whispered desperately. Kale, stay with me. His fingers twitched weakly. Sarah, fine. She pressed her lips to his forehead, shaking. I've got you. I'm right here. The Night Rider yelled. From across the collapsing floor, Princess, the temple is falling. The Blood Seer. Grab the Shadow Witch's cloak. Get them out. The witch snarled and slashed. The air opened, tearing a door of shadow into the mountain wall. Seraphine pulled Kale through just as the entire temple collapsed behind them in a roar of stone and darkness. They emerged into the forest. 2 moons hung above, one silver, one crimson. The trees glowed faintly in their light. Kale collapsed into the snow, breathing hard. Seraphine fell to her knees beside him, lifting his head into her lap. His eyes fluttered open, soft, vulnerable, human again. He whispered, Seraphine, are you safe? A tear slipped down her cheek. You're the one who almost died. Why are you asking about me? He managed a weak smile. Habit maybe. She brushed his hair back gently. Kale, don't joke right now. He reached up with his trembling hand and touched her cheek. You came for me. She leaned into his palm. I would cross every mountain in the world for you. His eyes softened. You saved me. You called my name. It whispered and I followed it back to you. His breath caught. Seraphine. She slid closer, resting her forehead against his. Their breaths mingled warm. In the cold night, Kale whispered, whatever comes next, I won't let you face it alone. She closed her eyes, voice trembling. Then our war begins. The blood-red moon pulsed faintly. A whisper drifted from the distant shadows. The god is not dead. The vessel is not free. Kale shuddered. Seraphine's hand tightened on his cheek. Part 2 ended beneath the twin moons with a promise, a warning, and the first quiet breath before the storm that would decide the fate of their world.